But tonight, as far as I understood, we have somebody who has not bothered with building so much, so more bothered with thinking a lot. And we hope he will share this with all of you, not only the people in his class. Please welcome Lebbeus.
Well, I like the distinction, Wolfgang, between the thinker and the architect, because certainly I'm one architect who's been more concerned about ideas than I have about buildings. But why do I still call myself an architect? I don't want to spend too much time on the subject because I have a lot of things to show you. Because I am interested in the idea of practice. You know, I'm interested in the idea of having ideas and then acting upon those ideas. And of course, we all do that. We write books or we make films. But in the particular way that architecture deals with space, so I call myself an architect. Believe me, there's a lot of architects who don't consider me an architect, all right? It's only been my insistence that I'm an architect that still keeps me in this field and gets me jobs as professors of architecture at very good schools and so on. But if I hadn't insisted on it, it would never have happened. But I would just like to go through the work, because not to just rely totally on the work, but the work is the embodiment of the ideas that I've been concerned with. These projects are my books, they are my articles, they are my essays. They are the things that other people in other fields do in a different way, but that I do through design. Now we've had a great group of students here, and our 2-day workshop, which has been, as you can imagine, very intensive, because we only had 2 days to cover a lot of ground, and I made it more complicated by insisting and being the client who is commissioning an experimental space in Saas-Fee. So it wasn't enough just to talk and exchange ideas, but I was asking this group of young people from different disciplines to actually make an experimental space. And what is an experimental space? Another term might be radical space, but it's space in which you don't already know how to behave. Now in this room, sorry, it's not really what I would call experimental space, because we all know how to behave here, and we're all behaving in the way that we're supposed to. I'm talking, and I'm going to show some images, and you're, so far anyway, politely listening. And that may change now that I've thrown out this challenge, But space itself is abstract. It's geometry, it's lines, it's walls, it's definition of boundaries. And in a sense, it can be used for anything. This room could be used for just about, anything. So we define the way we use it based on our habits of use and on little labels that go onto doors. You go into an office building or a university building and you look at the door label. Oh, is this the classroom? You look at the label. The room is just a box, but you're looking at a label to tell you how to behave, basically. I'm going to go in this room and I'm going to learn something by listening to a teacher. That's one interpretation of a classroom. So experimental space really is trying to experiment with these conventions that nicely organize our lives and give our lives and what we do some meaning in relation to ourselves, our families, each other, strangers. As well, we all are more or less strangers. Get to know each other a bit, but we're kind of an embodiment of the social condition of human beings. So space is very important, part of our exchange with other people in all kinds of different ways. So my main theme, if you will, has been transformation. probably somewhat autobiographical, because I grew up moving all around the U.S. I never lived in a house for longer than 2 years. My father was in the military, was always moving here, there, and everywhere, changing schools, new friends, new environments. So I had to learn how to deal with change in my life very early. So that whole way of thinking and feeling was something that, as an architect, I could look around and see that change was going on in the society around me for other people who maybe weren't moving every 2 years, but they were still impacted by all kinds of changes. And the question was, how is the space that is designed for people to live in, to enact their lives in, how does that facilitate or enable change? Does it itself change? Or do people just change what they do in it? And you can take it from there, obviously. So I started looking at architecture as a kind of instrument, not as a tool, but literally an instrument for measurement, if you want to put it in those terms. It's something that makes the world readable to us. We can actually measure our world through the spaces we design. I'll leave that point, and hopefully some flesh will collect on that bone as we go on. But running through some projects, and I probably have too many here, and I'll try to move, with alacrity through them. Going back some years and to a project which was, sort of midway along in my work as an architect, which had very much been concerned with cities, urban spaces, bigger types of complex environments. I wanted to design a house. Every architect wants to design a house. But this house wasn't for me so much as it was a house called a solo house for one person. I never defined who that person was. But it was a house that had to do with creating a space, an interior and an exterior, because objects create space around them. You build a building, you create a space, an outside space, which is just a space around the object. And of course you create an inside space. Here we're kind of looking past the front door into the interior of this house. This is a model of the house. Pretty large model built out of steel sheets and wood. But there's something that I was after, which is a kind of ambiguity. This word vagueness has come up in our seminar group yesterday. I've never used the word vagueness, but I certainly use the word ambiguity and uncertainty, where it's not altogether clear, first of all, what the space is, and it's absolutely unclear what it could be used for. There's no label on the door. The word house, is a pretty generous meaning. So you're looking into a kind of ambiguous interior space, which is kind of unusually shaped, kind of ovoid and changing in section, and constructed with the only furniture are these kind of instruments that are inside the house, which are for the measurement of different things. Certainly one